When an auditor evaluates a significant data fiduciary, they are tasked with prying open the digital vaults of massive organizations. The public and regulatory bodies expect these investigations to be conducted with absolute objectivity. The data must dictate the findings. But this creates an immediate tension. We expect a thorough interrogation of a company's data practices, yet we ignore the reality of who is signing the investigator's paycheck. There is a common assumption that simply operating as an external, third-party entity grants an auditor immunity from corporate pressure. Relying on an auditor's personal moral fortitude to report fraud against the very executives keeping them in business is a behavioral gamble. It is not a structural protection. To understand why this fails, look at the basic audit ecosystem. You have three entities: the auditor, the regulatory authority, and corporate management. In an ideal reporting line, the auditor investigates the management and transmits their findings directly to the regulator. But the system contains a structural flaw. Management is usually the entity negotiating and paying the auditor's fees. This financial tether creates an inherent obligation to corporate leadership. The investigator is directly employed by the target of the investigation. Under this financial weight, the objective reporting line begins to fracture. The willingness to challenge the client's management fades. Accuracy on the margins is lost first. Auditors may hesitate to qualify a report when they spot minor discrepancies, preferring to let small issues slide. Eventually, systemic oversight fails. Major frauds may go unreported because disclosure means losing the contract. As long as the executive suite controls the money, the auditor remains operationally captive, regardless of their external status.
This conflict of interest is a known problem. It is the same dilemma that plagued statutory financial auditing for decades. Financial regulators solved this paradox by moving the decision-making power away from the executive branch and into the hands of corporate governance. The mechanism strips the hiring power away from the day-to-day management team. Instead, the statutory financial auditor is appointed by the company's ultimate owners, the shareholders. Independence was achieved by decoupling the auditor's appointment and remuneration from the individuals being audited. We are now applying that same logic to the oversight of significant data fiduciaries. The Naavi framework serves as a governance bridge, importing proven financial safeguards into modern data auditing. The central requirement is that independent data auditors must utilize the same structural bypasses used by statutory financial auditors. To maintain objectivity, a data auditor's mandate must flow from an authority sitting above the executive management team. Because data fiduciaries operate under different corporate structures, this bypass is customized to the specific type of entity. For public limited companies, the requirement follows the financial sector model. The appointment of the independent data auditor must be approved directly by the shareholders. Private limited companies follow a slightly different path. The appointment requires a formal board of directors resolution, isolating the decision from operational managers. Government agencies acting as data fiduciaries require a parallel mechanism. The data auditor must be appointed by an independent governance body overseeing that specific agency. Across all three models, executive management is removed from the hiring loop. This tripartite structural bypass removes the auditor's financial obligation to the executive team, establishing a legal path to report discrepancies to regulators. Corporate theory only works if it translates into the practical, day-to-day reality of successfully securing an independent audit contract. The actual location where this independence is established is the initial engagement contract. This governance routing must be explicitly drafted into the legally binding terms of the document. Implementing this framework is a proactive best practice, ensuring the industry adopts objective oversight ahead of formal legislation. Operational independence begins at the point of hire in the specific language of the contract. Driving this shift is the responsibility of the AIDA impaneled auditor. These highly trained auditors must actively pursue this specific governance structure when directly negotiating terms with an organization's executive leadership. The CETA training program acts as the mechanism for standardizing this approach across the profession. CETA provides a model contract containing the precise clauses required to implement this executive bypass. Objectivity is achieved through a system that removes individual financial pressure from the audit process. Standardizing these contract-level changes allows auditors to report findings to the authorities without risking their remuneration.